doesn't just bring his wealth. You must be tried. First, he must see your heart. Priority. That's why Christ is saying, seek first. He's just trying to rearrange your priorities. And that's what I did. Arrange your priorities. When the kingdom comes first, I'll take care of you. There was this time where I don't know whether it was a dream or a vision or whatever, but
what's up, everybody? Welcome to Deep Dive Sessions. My name is 𝐁𝐞𝐬𝐭. Thank you for stopping by. I'll go with the show to bring you and I in proximity to the people and ideas that will show us that it is possible and it can be done and eventually help us achieve on our dreams and our goals. But before we get started, we'd like to give a big shout out to UB Innovation Center for giving us this venue. You know, if you're a startup, if you're an SME, if you're an entrepreneur, and you really want to get your feet wet into this space, this is where you can come to incubate your idea, to really get some feedback. If you have a prototype, if you have all these things, come here and learn and be able to engage with the good people at UB Innovation Center. Ladies and gentlemen, today we have a special guest. She was voted, before I go to voted, author of 52 books, voted Entrepreneur of the Year 2023, Best Youth-Owned Business 2023, Best Youth Employer 2023, and a long list of prolific achievements. Ladies and gentlemen, help me welcome to the show this evening, Muzila. Oh, yes. It's been a long time coming. I must tell you that I have played this in my mind at least 100 times. Now, one day, I'm going to have a conversation with Muzila. And today is the day. So, you know, Mudimu made it happen. How are you?
I am so good, and thank you for having me here.
Awesome. Thank you for coming through and coming with the amazing team. You know, it's actually a first. You know, I think a previous guest, Tukilata, maybe Kabalebo 6'7". Kumpione Hana 24, I think. So you have broken the records already.
Thank you so
much. You have broken the records already. So I'm very, very excited because as I was just researching you, there is so much. There's so much that you talk about. But a recurring theme is you're very unapologetic about your faith. You're very unapologetic about believing in God. And this is actually a starting point. Talk to us about your encounter with God, with faith.
I think I've always been this child who was curious about the spiritual world. As far as I can remember, I think from the age of 4, I used to be in a gathering where my dad and the family members and neighbors would be praying. And I felt there was something beyond what I could just see. So from that very young age, I've always been curious about God. And I could just pick that these people were praying to some being that I could not see with my eyes, but definitely this being was there. So from that young age, I've always been searching for God. There were days I'll just sneak out when my mom was not aware and go to the Roman Catholic, get there. If I'm not satisfied, go to St. John. I used to just sneak out just to go and be in a place where people are praying. So I think from that young age, I've always been curious. But I'll say I had an encounter with God when I was 14 years old. Now that's when I'll say God appeared to me in some way. I used to believe, you know, that not that there's no hell or heaven, but, you know, those are things that you believe, but it's like the abstract. Maybe they'll happen, maybe they'll. And then there was this time where I don't know whether it was a dream or a vision or whatever, but, you know, at that point, it was like I was dead and I had to face Christ and I was supposed to go to hell. And at that moment, I felt I knew why I was supposed to go to hell. And I wish there was an opportunity for me to come back and amend my ways. And thank God I woke up, it was like a dream. So since then, I made up my mind that I'm going to pursue God and do everything that pleases him. So from that young age, I've been pursuing God. And pursuing God for me has been more tangible than, I've reached a point where I feel like God is being more tangible than you are. So since since that age, I've been having a close relationship with God to a moment where if I don't hear his voice, I know something is not right. So you reach moments where you miss the voice of God, you miss that. So I think for me, that encounter of seeing myself going to hell, and I knew why, because somebody used to preach to me, and I was going to some church, and I believed it was the ultimate. And when my brother told me that is not the right way, I used to argue with him. But in that dream, I was putting on the uniform ya 𝐘𝐨𝐻𝐿𝐵 and in the dream, and Christ spoke to me that, no, you are not worthy. And since then, my life has been different. Yes.
Yeah, eh? It's already deep. It's already there. It's interesting you said you used to sneak out and go to church, because I know people sneak out and go elsewhere. They go elsewhere. You used to sneak out and go to church. So it's very interesting to me, because you had that pull was already there for you. You know, there's no way I could describe this. And so how then does your life then start to unfold? You had an encounter with God at 14. And from then on, you purposed. You're reminding me of a story, Daniel, where it says Daniel purposed in his heart not to defile himself with the king's portion. It's like you purposed and said, okay, this is the route I am taking. And then everything else started to unfold from there. Can you kindly walk us through, school, career, how things started to unfold after you made that decision? Because I believe it's very key, because you found God, and then God said, this is the way, walk ye in it.
Yeah, it's like coming to God was colliding with my destiny. Like, well, I didn't, you grow up and you're like, I know what I want to do, but you're not really sure. But now the moment I met Christ, it was like everything about my life, even my dreams. I'm a dreamer, I dream a lot. Even my dreams started being too vivid to a point where I would know what would happen next. Just as a young girl, you'd be sleeping. And there were moments where even when I'm playing with other kids and something is missing, I can even say, you know what? I'll know when I wake up, because I'll know when I sleep, God will speak to me. I remember when I was doing Form 1? So some girl stole my padlock, and I suspect, it's usually you suspect the boys, yes. That it's the boys. But then when I was asleep, I dreamt some girls, and those girls, 2 of them were not part of my class. One of them was their friend, classmate. And my padlock had to do with them. In the dream. And the confidence that I had in the morning going to that girl, and I said, bring my padlock.
Yeah.
And she said, no, who told you? It's not me. It's those other 2 girls. And mind you, I dreamt those 2 girls. And for me, I started to see that God is that real. So every night before I sleep, I'll just pray that show me something. Like if I need to know something that is important, let it be. So it has been an awesome journey, but scary at the same time, because if you dream things and then they happen, the feeling it's not too exciting. It's scary to see, there's a being that is controlling my life. And for me, coming to Christ has been, but the exciting part was that coming to Christ, I was not just alone. I had a big brother who used just to guide me, but will be apart. Maybe I'll call you be, and when he comes back, you'll be like, hey, the way you are growing spiritually. So as you are saying, I purposed in my heart, I told myself, okay, this is the life for me. Of course, I've been sneaking out going to church, but I was lost because I was searching for God, but in the wrong places. I didn't understand the Bible. I read it, but it's like coming to Christ now. I started understanding the Bible by now having that encounter with God. So since then, every part of my life, my career opened up. I started seeing, because I always had the dream of owning a school from the age of 10. And one day I'll own a school. And I think because of the consciousness of God, of course, I've always lived knowing that I can pray. But that encounter opened things up for me so that even at the moment where I was failing, there was a time I was failing because I had challenges, social challenges at home. My relationship with my mom, it affected everything about my walk even with God. But the more I went through those challenges, the more I became strong, and the more I even saw God in my academic life. And then now when I went to high school, I'll say that was a turnaround, because now I was free from my mom. Because even when I was born again, my mom would force me to still go to the church that I dreamt to myself going to hell. You see. But now when I went to high school, I said, now this is the time. Because there are some things you do them because you are submitting to authority. This is your parent. You don't want to upset them, even if you know this is not right. Now when I went for Form 4, the first time I told myself, I fear that woman. And I know when I get back home, she's going to force me to go to church. But this is the first bold step that I must make, that I have made a decision and I'm never going to go back there. And for the first time, I became a rebel. I remember my mama, I'm not going to go there. And she said, and I left and I felt I conquered. Since then, God started. It was like I had, because my mom was the ultimate authority over my life at the time. So it was like I denied my mom for that moment for Christ's sake. Because all along I used to compromise for her. And it's like just making that bold step that, Mama, this is not what I'm going to do. I respect you, but there is somebody greater than you. For me, taking that step, it was like prioritizing God. And the moment I did that, my life turned around. And I came to University of Botswana knowing what I have to do. Second year, registered the business. It was like step by step. God had to lead me. This is the way, walk in it.
So you have complete faith that you're now, you're in alignment.
Alignment, where you wake up and you feel I'm walking right in the midst or in the middle of the perfect will of God. And there's such fulfillment that comes knowing that, you know what, I'm where God wants me to be, where provision is going to be. Even when you face challenges, the fact that you know it's God who said I should do this, there's strength and confidence that you have. You sleep like a baby. As we always say, because you are not scared. You know whom you have believed. So it has been different since I walked with God. I've never been normal in the natural sense, because the things that a normal being would know, would not know, I would know. To this day, I would wake up, okay, I'll know. No, I'm not supposed to do this. Okay, I'm supposed to go there. There is a place somewhere that I should go to. And such is abnormal. In the natural sense, but it is inspired by my relationship with God. Yes.
Lovely. So you come to varsity, as you said, second year you register the business. And how did that unfold from there? Because you went also, 52 books. There's 52 weeks in a year already, and that is...
Yes, and I came here, as I said, the passion had always been there. But when I was at high school, there was a time I was confused because when I was public, and some people be like, you'll be a good lawyer. Okay, I can do law. But God was straight. It was clear to me. God was clear to me. Go into the field of education. So when I came to university, I had to ask my brother, I want to do education, I want to do theology and languages. How is that possible? Because I feel I'm confused. And then he said, no, you can do theology in the Department of Humanities and as well as languages. Then after your degree, do the postgraduate diploma in education. So it's like I came here with my plan, and it was clear that by the time I leave University of Botswana, I should have done theology, I should have done languages, because I'm a writer, of course. And again, I wanted to appreciate that the secular theology is a preacher out there, so that I can So I did that, and by the time I finished UB, I had achieved all that. But second year, I registered a business. My idea was, okay, let me start with what I can. I remember going to Nata. I wanted to start with a preschool. And I got there. Ke bonile hello ke ra ke kopa ho lisa be ba nya America e ba tsena mo ntung ba ipua ba tswa ko ba nya re ta bua le wena. After 2 months my mom implorela batho ba butse preschool.
Hey man. And you're the one who gave them that idea.
Yes.
Yeah.
And then for a moment I was a bit discouraged. But having a relationship with God, there's always going to be that voice that says, it's not yet time. Be still and know that I am God. And then I went into writing. I wrote my first book while I was in this university. Yes, I started drafting it when I was a teenager. And it wasn't easy, of course. It wasn't easy because I was writing a spiritual book. I'm actually the first Christian author, a young author of our time. Because during those days, Christian books So I broke the fallow ground. So I had to start something that was new. So everybody was criticizing me. I went to publishing companies. Everybody was criticizing me. And I said, you know what? Then I'm going to register my own publishing. And that's how I started publishing my very first book at the age of 20. Yes, so I published my first book and it sold. Yes, so that was
the beginning.
That was the beginning.
Yeah.
That was the beginning. And then after finishing university, of course, I knew I can't just start the school with no clear understanding. So I went for temporary teaching just to appreciate the syllabus, the curriculum, the primary curriculum. And after 3 years, I went into business. Yes.
Oh, wow. So very interesting. Very, very interesting. There's definitely a lot of lessons to learn from there. Your journey is also, it's interesting because as I'm hearing you, the advice is clear, or the message is clear. Before you try to find what you're going to do, find God, then he will give it to you.
True. And
because that's the premise of where things flow from there. Because even just the confidence to do that at that age, it's just listening to us, they're like, how was she able to do these things? But when you reverse engineer, it's clear because you were following the voice that was speaking to you. And so you never had doubt, essentially. Of course, we are human beings. You can doubt and everything.
Yes.
But by far and large, you knew that this is where. And so fast forward to now, it's this big organization. How many employees actually?
132 now.
132.
Yes.
Yo, 132, 52 books, all these other things. And I was reading it. I was when I even got to the age part, I couldn't believe it. I couldn't believe it because even to this age, 132 at the age you are at, and even doing all these things, it's quite remarkable. And so, in the whole experience, now becoming a business owner, now managing people, managing systems, and all this, and now even building wealth. Because this is something I wanted to talk about. From my personal experience, even some Christian circles, you'll find money is shunned. It's like talk about love, talk about, I don't know if you're hearing me.
Yes.
It's like it's shunned. It's like it's a topic that cannot be touched, especially in Christian circles. Sometimes people will start saying money is the root of all evil. They'll start saying it takes a camel to go through the needle. They'll start giving you all these things, and so how were you now as a business owner now and building wealth and having systems and taking care of families, 132, what were some of those principles? What are some of these principles as we get into them, the wealth? But first, how were you able to really distill your mindset in terms of Madi and unknowing how money is this, you can do good with it? How were you able to do that, to distill it that way?
I think knowledge is power. We talk a lot about mindset, and I'll tell you, our minds are set on what we know, and at most times we express ourselves based on what we know, and we grew up, especially in the African culture and even in the African churches. Kereke ne ke tsena re santse dipampiri ho ntshiwa zoka le mathebenyana angwe le neelwa yana, and we knew that church has nothing to do with money. I think a lot of people were limited ba sa explora modimo go na le ditemana tse ba sa di balang, but there is a God who is saying, I'll give you treasures of darkness and riches stored in secret places. That Christ himself said, when you seek the kingdom, and then all these things I'll add. I'm taking care of the beds. What more of you? If he died for us, why wouldn't he take care of us in this world? And I always say, sometimes we are even inspired by some theologies that we read, even from the scriptures. For instance, you know, the early church, people sold their fields from their hearts. But we need to understand that most of those people were inspired by the soon coming of Jesus, and they interpreted the soon coming in the natural sense, that I'm coming soon. And when somebody says, I'm coming soon, you're expecting them to come back in the next 3 months. You're expecting them to, more so that he died on Friday and he said, I'm going to resurrect in 3 days. And he did. So definitely all of them were expecting that.
It's going to be now.
It's going to be now. But then when you understand, which is the reason why I studied theology. Not everything is bad about theology. Because now when you read into the scriptures, you realize, okay, from the time of Enoch and Noah, there were 4,000. How many people are complaining that Christ was doing 2,000 years ago? But when you look into, even historically, you research about the genealogy of those people and how they lived about 4,000 years before the other generation came. The very same people that we read about from the Bible. But then knowledge is power. I think for me, it's knowledge and exposure to seeing that it is God himself who says, there's no how you can preach the gospel without money. We need food. And Jesus himself said, I don't pray that you take them out of the world, but I pray that they may overcome the evil one. So it means we have to be in this world, and in this world, what happens? We have houses. We must eat. So it's not, and Jesus himself says we should pray that give us our daily bread. There's a daily bread, and that bread is bought. With money, and the Bible says the love of money, not money. Money assumes the character of the person that is handling it. When money falls into the hands of an evil man, the evil man will do what is evil. But as the Bible says, when the righteous rule, the people rejoice. That's what happens when money lands into the hand of a child of God. The people rejoice because what you do with the money, you can only do good. And money is a medium of exchange. So we need money. So for me, it was exposure and revelation that, these riches, he says heaven and earth belongs to me. Right now, even if God is to come and say to a scientist, please, just do your experiments without touching anything that I created. There's nothing. Scientists are creating nothing. They're just discovering things that God has made. And that same God is my Father. So for me, it's understanding. And if you're talking about principles, there are 4 principles that I call the peace. The peace is to peace off, piecing off the devil. Can peace off the devil. Firstly, it's priorities. If you're to talk about kingdom wealth, Jesus himself says, seek first the kingdom. And this is just a secret to all of us that, if you want to see God releasing, even the government, for them to sponsor you with corruption thing. If you are to be sponsored, you should prove that I'm going to touch this much lives. This is the impact. So, and such is the principle of God. Priorities. If your priorities are right, that it is the kingdom, it is the people, it is purpose, it is souls that counts. God has no problem with releasing money. Priorities. But priorities, I think for me, I prioritized the kingdom, and then God started prioritizing my things. It's according to his word. So I'll be coming from whatever, preaching, and from there God drops an idea. Because even the Dawn Bell concept, that one was from God, divinely inspired. The first concept ever in Botswana, that I'm going to run a school in a homely environment, and people say, this one is crazy. And because the idea was from God.
He will give you the provision.
Exactly. And when I started, it started working. But when you look at my life, you realize I've never stopped preaching the gospel. I've never stopped prioritizing Christ. I've never stopped prioritizing people. I've never stopped prioritizing the salvation of souls. So that is the first principle. Priorities. Prioritize the things of God, and then God will prioritize you. Unfortunately, we want the things and not the God of the things. So we need to come back to that God, because he has everything. He's our Father. So you reach a point where you're like, God, and God knows some things you don't even have to pray for them. I think for me, I end up reaching a level where I don't pray for them, but I'll know. Like, I'll know.
He has it covered.
Yeah, I'll know that, okay, next season, I'll just dream it and I'll know it's coming. Without me praying for it, God, give me. Beginning with my Honda Fit, I always say, I dreamt my first car. It was a Honda Fit, and God was saying, this is your level, and I appreciated it. So God is that real, and his word is true. We need to prioritize. That is the first P. And the second thing is integrity. When you start building wealth, the thing that matters, if you want to attract God's favor, is integrity. Because the moment you start, there are gonna be other offers coming to you. The moment you start, and the enemy sees he has a brilliant idea, he might bring people who seem like partners, might bring sponsor, and your integrity is being tested. If you pass that test, now God can trust you with more. So most of us lack integrity. Like, we are not who we are in the private. And for me, I've always been clear. I'll tell you, no, please keep that. No, please, I have a God in heaven. So God doesn't just bring his wealth. You must be tried. First, he must see your heart. Priority. That's why Christ is saying, seek first. He's just trying to rearrange your priorities. And that's what I did. That arrange your priorities. When the kingdom comes first, I'll take care of you. And then integrity. Tshwara wa tshwaresen ba ba go okeletsa ona re mo ke busa le di change tsa batho mska re modimo go haka letsogo. Integrity. Don't oppress people. How profiting yana di tsene sa jehela ntse re ke batla gore ba tsamaye ba ntse ba ja 1000, because that is integrity. Your integrity. And then the other S is service, servanthood. Jesus says, whoever wants to be great amongst you must be your servant. It's talking about the place of service, working. A lot of us wants to be at the top places, but without having to touch anything, without having to go through the hardship, without having to start small. We all want to be, no, I want to be an achiever, I want to be the CEO, but I'm not willing to start as that one who can clean, as that one who can just do those small duties. And that's what is making us to miss a lot. And for me, I think I learned that service is everything. And before God, if you want to, not just serving, at times when we say service as children of God, we are thinking about church, just church, but serving humanity, serving the less privileged, saving wherever you are. To this day, even as a CEO,
it's not demeaning.
And some people will be like, no, you need to say, no, you are missing it. This is the secret that is putting me to be where I am. Because even Christ came and he washed the disciples' feet. And this is an area that we are missing. A lot of us, we don't want to serve. We don't want to be associated with go tshwara ka matsogo, re talaleswe. We all want to be clean. And I'll tell you, servanthood is everything. Great leaders and people who become successful are people who serve. Because it is when you serve that the master himself is always going to bless the works of your hands and elevate you. So for me, it's a principle that I learned. So that even today, even as a pastor, now I sweep the church. No, but I'm doing that because I'm serving who? God. And we are missing the whole thing in the process that who are we serving? We are serving the master. We are serving. So even as you are serving the people, Jesus said, and on that day they'll say to me, when you talk about service, I was in prison and you did not come. That is Christianity. That is created. I never knew you because I was in prison. You never came to me. I was naked. You did not clothe me. While we are filling the churches and pursuing this and that and saying, God bless me, give me a car, he's waiting for us at the prison because he's saying, when you do to those ones, you are doing it to me. I was hungry, you did not feed me. For me, I think that is the essence of Christianity, to serve humanity, to think about the next person, to be selfless. And such is what is lacking. But the more you become selfless, when God sees that you are open to service, he sponsors. So the kumo tsa modimo ha se gore ha ke dinelo gore ke shine gore le mpone. It comes as a sponsorship. So how and how direla modimo o tsholela go wena ka gore o itse gore go ama le ba bangwe ba ba direla. So literally that's how we become great in servanthood, serving others. Yes, no, let me. So that's just one thing that I think we need to learn, that if you want to become great, be a servant.
Be a servant.
It's first. A principle that in Mount Senior, I was a leader for Scripture Union. For the entire 2 years, people didn't know who swept the chapel. We said, before services, and sweep the house. Look where I am today. To this day, whenever there is an event, I check. That is the secret of what is making me great. I don't want to just be served, but I want to serve others, just as Christ washed the feet. And the other S that we have to look at in stewardship, similar to service, but stewardship is broad because God blesses us looking at the fact that, as I said in service, that you are going to serve the others. But God blesses us because he looks at our heart that honors the one who has given. Because all these things, so when you want to be wealthy, really, the God way is to understand that all things belong to God. So the companies, I feel they don't belong to me. One day I'll be normal and somebody will continue with that. And we never think about that temporarily God has given me this. Yes, it bears my names, but it doesn't belong to me really, because this life I don't own. That door. So when you understand that it all comes from God, the Bible says wealth and power, they belong to God. When you understand that it all comes from God, you serve the master, you become a steward. And stewardship also has to do with time. And some people will be like, no, are you a steward of your time? The time that God has given you, what are you doing with it? The little resources that God has given you. And Jesus says, to whom more is given, more is required. And he says, if you cannot be trusted with little, you cannot be trusted with more. So there is a point. That's why I gave you an example with the Honda Fit. There was a time God gave me a Honda Fit. I'm not talking about abuse, that you should abuse yourself, but serving others with what God has given you. You were walking the other day and it was raining, and the next day God has given me a car. I'll post on Facebook. You see all those things. And so every little thing that God gives you, when you become faithful in it, that's how it keeps on expanding. And for me, I look at the growth of John Bell as my journey of stewardship. That one day he started, then I brought in my brother. Today, every season it expands. Every season it expands because I remain a steward. Now I'm just going to take care of you and pay you accordingly. There was a time where so we are taking and even the growth, okay, I think minimum wage should be this. You are looking at the profit, and why won't God bless you? God will bless you because He says, no, that is not stewardship. Stewardship is understanding and that has been the secret. So it's priorities. Check your priorities. Where is your heart? Is your heart for people? And the integrity. And the days of your challenges, you're going to be tried. And money will come. If you're a young girl who fears the Lord and you've stayed sexual pure, they're going to say, don't do that. I'm here because it's a testimony and I'm proud to say, oh, God did it for me. So I'm not scared. You are. No. So that is integrity, and then the servanthood. If you want to be great, let us be stewards of what God has given us. You know, I started giving when I was form 5. Every little that I got, you don't even see that because you carry God in you. You don't have to be a millionaire for you to give. You just have to serve humanity with the little that you have. It's a lifestyle it's a principle. You grow in it. Because if you can't tithe from 1,000, how can 100,000 to 30 million?
Can never happen.
You can't. You can't. You can't, because it's a heart issue. Now you're going to be looking at the figures. So now I've grown into it to know that I can part with over 1 million and serve humanity.
Lovely.
So
lovely.
Those are the principles.
I wanted to come here now, as we keep breaking it down. I've realized the phenomenon, sometimes even in Christian circles, where it seems as if humility is linked with poverty, where it's like, you are, for you to be humble, it's for you to be in lack. And for me, I look at it and it's fundamentally flawed. What are your thoughts on that?
One woman
where they
said,
tell you, the moment you have financial stability, freedom, pride,
exactly.
all that.
Those are the things that, as we're talking about mindset, we should be transformed and be delivered from. One woman of God said, what else can a poor man be? It's just to humble yourself, after all. Again, that is forced to humility.
Yeah.
And the truth is that humility has nothing to do with your financial status. Humility is a heart condition. I have seen people insulting others. It has nothing to do with. And this whole thing, being poor is humility. It's what has destroyed the church. For ages and ages, we could have long been delivered from that. if we were delivered from the bad, because we believe that having money, that part there, money is the root of all evil. But the Bible says the love, and it doesn't say they like. You understand? It's okay to like money. Money is good. Yes, we should like it, but not love, because love is the passion that should be given to God and humanity. Yes, so don't. Basically, that's it. But I believe that you can be wealthy and be humble. And the Bible says God opposes the proud and he gives grace to the humble. Grace to kumanego. He doesn't.
It can be.
So when God graces you, it means he expands you. He still blesses you, not to poverty. And there is nowhere where God spoke that he will bless us with poverty. And he keeps on saying, the blessing of the Lord maketh rich. And they bring no sorrow. And I want to say this to us, that there is nothing glorious about poverty, and we should stop crowning it in the church and associating it with humility. Humility is a heart condition, and it's the inner submission of a heart to God. Humility, and we should be divorced from humility. I mean, we should divorce poverty. Kumanego brings all the limitations that we can ever imagine. We are not, at the end of the day, the Bible says, I don't know what in our generation, but the psalmist says, I've been young and now I'm old. I've never seen the righteous forsaken or their children begging for bread. And he says a righteous man leaves an inheritance for his children's children. So if we are not getting rich or richer, we are wicked.
Wicked. It's clear.
So we should be multiplying every little thing that came to our hands and becoming richer and richer.
Sorry. You're bringing me to something that I've been thinking about for so long. I'm sure you're aware of how the Jews do that thing. It's like the money travels amongst them 12 times. Talk to me about that. I'm saddened to say I attended a Christian business seminar a couple of years back, and the question was posed: how many of you would work with a fellow Christian brother or sister in business? How many of you would get into business? 25% of the room said, I would. 75% said, I would not. And it pained me to see it like that, because why, if we are able to understand each other from a doctrinal standpoint, we believe the same thing, the same God, why then wouldn't we venture into business together? Why wouldn't I look at you and say, I can help you as my client or as a customer or that? What are your thoughts on that?
I think we are missing the whole point, or I'll say we don't understand what being a Christian or being a child of God means. Because for me, I would love to work with Christians. And but I think 99% of my employees are children of God. And that's the best decision that I've ever made. Because when you work with people with the same values and same principles,
That's
the best thing that ever happened to me. And I will encourage Christians. I think it was I don't know what to call it, a misconception, or unless if you don't understand, because they are churchgoers and then they are Christians. But children of God are the best people to work with because, one, they have integrity. I talked about integrity. Two, they will serve. These are people who are servants. And these are people who are stewards. The principles that I mentioned, you'll find them mohobone. You'll find that these people, they've got their priorities right. They know that I'm here to add value. And I'm not just working for myself or for this company, but I'm doing it unto the Lord. So for me, wow, it has been a blessing. And I'll tell you, since last year, I was just so intentional. I ke batho ba sa sekologang ba nyatsa modimo mo businesseng ya me. When I did that, ke smala ke transformer, ke tsa ba le malonyana ke this. Guess what happened? The number increased. Palo ene ke na le ya babereki ya last year. We are around 60 something. Okay, now subtract from 132. Because of that,
more than doubled.
Changed. So when you work together, and makula banze, they work together because they believe the same thing. So money circulates among themselves. But we want to. I think more than religious people. Remember, I talked about religious people. But children of God, genuine children of God, support each other. And I've seen that with us and Don Bell. Because people at the end, they feel, but fake. But when you get there, you realize this is genuine. This is authentic. Somebody called me Maloba. I watched Nikile Libeletse Maloba. And I was like, wow, it was so beautiful just to watch how authentic this energy is, to see all these people are united and they are one. So when children of God work together, there's unity. So I think for the longest time we were told, hey, ba Kriste ba dingalo. Na ke a ganetsa. Le gale gongwe ba me go go nna ba siame. Gape if you are a Christian ba ba Kriste ba dingalo. I don't understand unless you only mutwadi bribe because some people say they're Christian, but in the business world they are not. Like they lack integrity, they lack principles. One body connection in they oppress people. But when you are born again and you fear God, it's not how you can fear another born again child of God. Rather you grow together. Yes.
And that's what people say. Exactly. And it's actually, when you actually hear that statement, it's very, very wrong.
True.
It's very, very, it's such a foreign statement. True. It's so, it's conflicting. True. Because you can't say Moline la then it simply does not make sense. So talk to me about, essentially now generational wealth, because this is something that we spoke about actually just a righteous man leaves wealth for his generations to come. Talk to me about that and why I believe it's a duty like that. The Bible gives us, it's a duty. Talk to me about generational wealth and your mindset on building it.
Actually, we should make things easier for the next generation. But not easier per se, but transfer skills and transfer wealth. Because one thing that I've realized, again, talking about generational wealth, is that you'll find that they say it's a cycle, like Ndiko wa tira wa huma. Hangwana ta go nama tobe. Wa repisa khumo ya nyella. Yo lele no tata itharabogela re mama o tshamekisitse. But if you are to create a generational wealth, firstly, we need to transfer the principles.
They are unchanging.
They are not changing. That's what the Jews do. And Lebone Makula. Go to these guys, Baba, prominent, their children are there. If somebody is running a car business, the child is there from this age. They see it. They know how to manage the books. They are part of it. Ronamo zwana how nali madiana sami ke go thola ke ntse ke iwaleta ngwana tomorrow. That is not wealth transfer. Eventually it's going to end with the other generations. So what we need to transfer are the principles. Gore ngwana ka ke leha tsontse be ke mo ruta gore this is how I'm making money. These are the challenges. And then they learn it so that in terms when because the business is not always going to do well. When there are challenges now, they know how to overcome that. But mostly we don't transfer wealth because we generate wealth. And that is the end of us. For me, I'll say I'm successful when I've transferred the skills and the principles to the next generation, because that's how we generate wealth. I have a brother, we work together. I had to set him up. At some moment, I had to watch him struggle to pay rent, and I'll pretend like I don't see. Because I guess one of them you understand?
Rite of passage.
I go through the processes because it is through processes that they learn. But what we do mostly, especially as Christians, I grew up suffering. Now you are not training your children. So if you want to transfer wealth, let them be part of the process. Let them do something. So I did that to my brother. Now I'm watching him. He's rising and he's coming up well. But at some point I had to watch him. My brother. And then you watch him. Here and there, you support him, watch him, struggle. Now he's mature. He can run the business. And magula badira jalo. So I think that's what we should be learning. Principles transfer. Because if they got the principles wrong, they're gonna squander your wealth. You are dead with your wealth. So we should be equipping them.
Yeah, right. And so my final question to you actually would be, how do you want to be remembered as Ndiko Muzila?
First of all, I want to be remembered as a servant of Morana Jesu. I want people to be able to remember me as the Christian preacher who once lived and transformed lives. My purpose is to, as I generate wealth, I generate it to save as many people as possible and teach them the skills. Because some skills, of course, they're going to help us to survive. But there's life after here. So when I go, at least some people should have come to the light and also continue with the wealth on earth while still waiting to meet the Lord. But I want to be remembered by the lives that have impacted, transforming lives, bringing them to Christ, bringing them out of poverty as well. Because I believe that it's possible to have Jesus and money. And I'll tell you, the most unstoppable people are people who have Jesus and money. So that
cannot be bought or sold.
They can't be bought or be sold. So if Christians had money, their voices would be heard. And that is my prayer, that and that's what I want to be remembered for. Transforming lives spiritually and socially and in every aspect of life. Thank you.
Hey, Mike. Yes. Ladies and gentlemen, this is Ndiko Muzila. We have just deep dived into biblical wealth principles. I hope you guys enjoyed this episode as much as I have. I wish you were here to attend the live show because we even went deeper. But without further ado, ladies and gentlemen, if you have enjoyed this episode, please send it to someone who would benefit from this message. It is word of mouth referrals like this that help the channel grow. Please subscribe to the channel. Give a comment. Give us your biggest takeaway down here below. And without further ado, ladies and gentlemen, we'll meet same time, same place next week. Be great. Thank you guys for watching this episode. We really hope you enjoyed it and learned something new. Deep Dive is dedicated to bringing you the most comprehensive and engaging information about business, personal finance, and personal development. Make sure to hit that subscribe button to stay updated with all our latest content. If you like this video, give it a like to show your support and help us reach a wider audience. And don't forget to share this video with your friends and your family who may be interested. Sharing helps us grow our community and connect with like-minded individuals. Leave a comment below and give us your biggest takeaway on this episode. If you're interested in being a part of our live studio audiences, make sure to register for the next show.